Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a campaign update for my online campaign. This is the second day we've played, and it'll be 2 weeks until we play again, because it's not going to be this Wednesday next week, it'll be the week after that we play. So, the party had some time pass, they rolled some rolls, earned some money in the downtime. Then one of the players changed out one of the characters they were using. So we lost the Goblin Gunslinger and we gained the Dwarf Alchemist for this adventure because they're returning to the same dungeon, the Shadow Tomb of Ashier, the chief advisor to a pharaoh over 5,000 years ago. And this is one of his 13 tombs. It's one of the 3 that the public knows of, like that have been found since these tombs were built and hidden. And this one is very popular as a trade destination for caravans to stop over, especially after the rainy season. The oasis fills up from the rainy season, the flooding of the Nile, and then it takes it about 2 months or so before it drains down. And then next year it'll do it again. And when the party returns, the dungeon is not how they left it. There are 3 caravans camped outside of this. And the party is a little confused about this. They take their time. They set up their own camp. They wait to see who all would leave in the next day. They purchased some more rations because some of them didn't have enough rations to begin with, and one of those caravans was transporting extras and he was willing to part. After 2 caravans part the following day and one hangs over for one more day, the one hanging over is a hobbit or halfling, and he has a halfling guard and a orc guard. And the orc guard's staying asleep most of the day. Well, they inquire what he trades in, and he trades in spices. All sorts of spices. And mushroom powders and herbs, the smoked kind. So the party had fun with that. They purchased a few things. And then when nightfall came, this guy's caravan was actually camping inside the entrance chamber of the dungeon. And the entrance chamber is just a doorway into a chamber. And then there's a door with a sign, a stone sign inscribed with hieroglyphs, the Egyptian common, right beside it saying that death's in here, don't enter. The party knows how to get in. They've been in before, but before that they decide to bribe the orc to make sure he doesn't wake the master and doesn't follow. So they do that. And I think they gave him like a gold piece or 2. And he was very satisfied. So the party opens the door and they get in, and then one of the creatures they left from last game attacks the necromancer. Misses terribly. And then the necromancer's like, oh, my buddy, because it's a little mummy, stands about 2.5 feet tall with a jackal head. And he uses his command undead necromantic power on it. So he gains control of it again, and then they progress onwards. The other rooms they had been in before look about the same as the way they left them. And then they enter the last room that they could enter easily, which is the newest room to them. It's a large room with a skylight roof. There are stone statues of Seth in this room, or Set in this room. There was hieroglyphs depicting the Osiris's dismemberment by Set. There was a few skeletal corpses in the perimeters, some of which look like they have been mummified from the dry air and time. So not proper mummification as much as just completely dried out mummification. There was a big door ornately opposite the doorway they came in, carved with a sphinx. There's holes where the eyes should be. The door will not budge. There are 2 doorways, left and right, and the party goes left. To the left was a long hallway. It's lined with statues of Set. The party looks at everything carefully before entering, and they find that it's trapped. And as they examine closer, it seems like it's a checker pattern trap. So I believe it was one of the rogues took some chalk and lightly drew on every single one of the trapped plates. And then the party took their time. So they spent at least an hour in this hallway just to get through it the first time. Which is a good thing they did, because this was a poison gas trap. And they never triggered this even when they came back through. The following room is a medium-sized room with support columns along the wall. There's hieroglyphs depicting night as itself and the dead, since the dead in Egyptian mythology was always associated with the night. There was some undercommon written telling about power in the shadow, and that was linked with a couple of spells that were hidden in it. And the party, after the combat that initiates here, deciphers that and scribes them down so they have access to them in the future. But there are 2 Sphinx statues in here with half a onyx gem. They look like 2 halves of the same whole in their mouths, and they move to attack. I didn't use golem stats for these, although that would be more appropriate if the party was a lot higher level than first. So they fought these, and it took them a decent amount. I want to say that somebody in the party took damage from these, but I can't actually recall if anyone actually did. I just remember that this combat took like 2 rounds. And then after that, they acquired the gems. They scribbled the spell down, and they walked their way carefully back through the trapped corridor into the big chamber with the giant door. Then they go down the other corridor. This corridor has a lot of holes in the walls and a few skeletons lying on the floor going away from this doorway at varying degrees in the hallway. The hallway was 100 foot long. And again, this was another trap that the party managed to avoid. They took their time and carefully got through this. But it was a poison dart trap that filled the wall. It would, if you were in it, you would have taken a D4 darts. It was very, very mean. And the party managed to avoid that. So they went to room 5. Room 5, there are inscriptions talking about that great door. There was 4 mummies in this room. The necromancer on his very first turn used his control undead to take one of the mummies out of play as far as being an enemy and adding it to their repertoire. And as far as mummies go, I gave these are creatures that were more or less zombies with mummies, DR, and susceptible to fire. So the party ended up taking them out pretty quick. Mostly because everyone understands that mummies are bad. There was a Sphinx statue that held holding another obsidian gem in its mouth. The party acquires that gem and then leaves this chamber and goes back to the main chamber with the door. They put the gems in the eyes of the Sphinx in the door, and the door opens. They hear mechanical gears as the mechanical stone gears as the door opens, and it pulls straight up. This is a big room with lots of inscriptions on the wall, and it has a big ring with 36 symbols on it. And then there was a dais, there was a raised pedestal with runes on it and a gem in the center of it. The party ends up deciphering the writing, and one of the characters, the occultist, I believe, played by Frankie Yenris, the half-elf, scribbles down pretty much everything he can off those walls. So they were here, I would say they were here about 3 hours before they actually started playing with the objects. But there was a address would be the term we would understand it, that gave them a destination to the shadow plane. So like, you guys want to test it out? And they're like, yeah, sure. So they go over to the dais and they type in the address, and then they hit the gem in the center, and the ring, stone ring, spun as they typed in the address and then lit up. And then when they were done, there was this explosion of light out of it, and then it solidified into a mirror surface. And then the party crosses through. They're on a plane where darkness oppresses light completely because it is the shadow plane. So all light sources only function at 50% radius. And low light vision's almost useless in here. They explore further around this area. I don't think I had a combat here. I believe I was just describing stuff. They found a few items, and they found a leg. They detect magic on the leg, and the leg blinds them. And they're like, oh yeah, that is definitely magical. They put that away in their stuff and take that with them. They look around further and decide that with all the oppressive shadow, they wanted to head back. The dialing device had a different symbol on it than the one that they used to get here. So they played around for a few minutes with that, but since they scribbled everything down from the walls, they figured it out pretty easily how to dial back to their material plane, and they opened the portal and head back. The portal they used on the material plane after coming through was dead. Like, if they attempted to dial again, it wasn't going to do anything. After the party leaves, they got to get their experience points, and then pretty much the game ended there. Don't know what they want to do next, but I got to start preparing stuff. What the party didn't know is that the dungeon resets after every full moon. So if the full moon would have happened between the first time they were in this dungeon and now, because I'm using our actual moon phase that it is right now, then in the first room where they fought the bunch of the undead jackal minions, they would have had to do that again. If they had triggered any traps and then returned, the traps would have been reset. Stuff like that would have happened. So, and then the portal would have recharged from the full moon. So that's the way this dungeon was set up. That's what's happened in this dungeon. And those are some of my DM insights. So if some of my players are watching this, this is some of the stuff that's maybe was in the background that you didn't know fully. If you have any comments, put them down below. If you're enjoying this, let me know.